Good morning. I'm Westchester County Executive Ken Jenkins, and we are here this morning at the McKillen Office Building, and we're going to talk Playland. I'm here this morning with Deputy County Executive Richard Wishley, the Director of Operations Joe McDonald, Deputy Director of Operations Emily Saltzman. I'm seeing Legislator Ben Boykin, a friend from County Legislator Ben Boykin that is in the audience with us today. Everyone's been asking, we said we're going to open Playland and we're going to talk through some things, but first, it's really important for us to take a step backwards before we're able to move forward and roll through the timeline that we have when we walked through Playland this year after Standard Amusement submitted their notice on January 21st, 2025, that they planned on leaving the park effective February 21st, and the county responded on January 22nd, saying that we thought that Standard Amusements was in default because of various things from a legal perspective. That's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to start back from the very beginning because obviously the condition Standard Amusements left Playland and it was a deeply disappointing and reflects the consequences of a poorly structured agreement made during the prior administration. That deal that was negotiated under then County Executive Rob Astorino prioritized privatization over prudent fiscal management and left the county responsible for significant financial liabilities, including the return of 100% of Standard Amusements investments. As a Board of Legislators member in 2016, I voted against that agreement because I believed it did not serve the best interests of Westchester taxpayers or its families. It took too long for the county to recover any dollars at all. It was almost 10 years before we would be able to get any investments, and that was not until after Standard Amusements received their dollars first. They had to have their repayments initially in that original agreement from 2016. Summer in Westchester means a summer spent at Playland, and this summer will absolutely be no different, and we certainly are going to be open in 2025. We'll talk about the exact date a little bit later on. So again, going backwards, in 2009, Robert Astorino was campaigning for county executive. One of his points on his platform was to privatize Playland to reduce taxpayer costs. It was a concern and an issue he brought up many times on the campaign trail, which was that Westchester County is the only county in the United States that owns an amusement park. There's a great story to tell, but we're not going to tell that story today of how we actually got an amusement park, and the people of that time in the 1930s were able to come up with an idea on paying for an investment of some land that was taken by eminent domain. But in April of 2010, Westchester issued an RFP, a request for proposal to find an operator for Playland. In 2010, in July, Save the Sound filed a lawsuit against Westchester County for not properly assessing Playland's environmental impact. In October 2010, County Executive Rob Astorino announces 12 groups that had submitted proposals to run the park. In 2011, in July of 2011, Westchester County narrowed that field to 4 proposals. In October of 2012, Sustainable Playland Incorporated, SPI, was a nonprofit that was created, and it was selected as the winning bidder to manage the park. Now we're going to continue down to August of 2014. SPI withdrew from the deal. Sustainable Playland withdraws from the deal after facing opposition from legislators, Rye residents, and from local groups. Then we move out into 2015. In 2015, Standard Amusements was selected as the new manager of Rye Playland, and that firm is backed by a hedge fund that's led by Harrison native Nick Singer. In September of 2015, there was an opt-out clause because in that original agreement, which, by the way, was a unanimous vote by all the legislators, including me, in 2015, that provided a 5-month period for Standard Amusements to evaluate the projects the county was doing. So in September, County Executive Astorino extended that opt-out clause, and as Standard Amusements raised concerns about the aging infrastructure at Playland. So County Executive Astorino gave them until March 31st, 2016 to finalize that deal, and in exchange, Standard Amusements gave the first payment to Westchester County of $25,000. Some of you may remember in that original deal in 2015, Standard Amusements was supposed to pay Westchester County $2.5 million, which never happened, by the way. In 2016, Rob Astorino, County Executive Astorino, proposed a $58 million capital improvement plan, nearly triple what the legislators expected and adopted in 2015. The lawmakers, including the chairman of the Board of Legislators at that time, Mike Kaplowitz, called the plan an unvetted wish list. That scope included, in addition, $9.9 million for the parking lot project, $4 million for designing the Fountain Plaza, or redesigning the Fountain Plaza, and removing the swimming pool, rehab of the colonnades, buildings, and administrative areas, and that Standard, on their side, increased their investment from $22.75 million to $30 million, but on the county side, it was now a $58 million capital improvement plan. In May of that year, the legislators adopted a 30-year agreement with a 13-4 vote. Those 4 votes that were against it were Alfreda Williams, Catherine Borgia, Catherine Parker, who represents Playland, and me. That had a county commitment for $32 million from Westchester County for those infrastructure improvements. Standard commits another $27.5 million for private investment, bringing their total amount to $33 million. Annual payments to the county started at $300,000 a year, $300,000 a year, and would increase over time. And the county would receive up to 12% of the park profits. The Standard Amusements deal also allowed for Standard to use county employees with reimbursement, and the Playland pool was a big issue at that time because they was supposed to be filled in, and the legislators pushed back against that. Actually, legislator Jim Mazzano was the one that led that, the minority leader at that time. We come into office in 2018, and in May of 2018 is the McDonald-Nona report, where our Director of Operations, Joan McDonald, and County Attorney, John Nona, went through those projects that were $30 million worth of projects that were proposed in 2016 and adopted, and identified that those projects were now $125 million worth of projects in 2018. There were some serious financial and legal flaws in the agreement that John Nona had identified. And again, the Astorino administration had granted 5 payment extensions and made material changes without approval from the Board of Legislators on that contract. Remember, as we said, in 2015, the original agreement was that there would be a payment of to Westchester County of $2.5 million. And at the end of the day, we received $1 million, not $2.5 million. The renovations at Playland, again, pegged at $75 million totally, now $125 million, and we, from Westchester County, were contributing significantly more than Standard Amusements without receiving proportional benefits. And basically, the county would not see any profit sharing for at least 11 years. Standard Amusements projected unrealistic growth, doubling attendance from 505,000 to 1 million by 2020. And only 1 million, again, of that 2.25 million required initial payments were ever made to Westchester. In 2019, then County Executive George Latimer pointed in our State of the County address that a new ride was coming to Playland. In May, that was the Dragonator. It wasn't called Dragonator at the time. We actually showed the picture at the end of the State of the County address, and that name was then the 2019 new ride called the Dragonator. In May, County Executive Latimer moved to terminate the contract, citing Standard Amusement's financial issues and unmet obligations, and Standard Amusements filed for bankruptcy to prevent that termination. So we did that new ride in June of 2019, the Dragonator. It's technically called a Disc 024, right? And that was installed by the Zamprola company. The naming contest we had for County Camp Children, and that won. And that contract included 5 operating seasons, a 2-year warranty, and an option to renew for another 5 years. In July, a bankruptcy judge denies the county motion to dismiss the bankruptcy, allowing Standard's case to proceed. The judge urges the county to renegotiate the contract, as the judge is not inclined to allow the county to terminate that agreement. In July of 2021, there were new terms agreed upon, reviving the public-private partnership between Standard Amusements and the county, and that went in front of the Board of Legislators for their adoption. Then we get down to 2025, when the contract was terminated and the county resumes control. So again, January 21st, 2025, Standard Amusement notifies the county it's terminating the agreement, alleging the county failed to meet construction obligations. And then on January 22nd, 2025, the county then rejects Standard's termination notice as invalid, asserting that Standard breached that agreement as well. February 6th, Westchester County initiated our arbitration proceedings against Standard Amusements for wrongful termination, and the Westchester County then began transitioning Playland's management back to county control. In April of 2025, the county faces liabilities up to $36 million to the dispute. Those plans are now underway, as you know, to open Playland for the 2025 season under county management. Westchester County Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Commissioner Kathy O'Connor issued that emergency order late in April 2025 for an effort to expedite the opening of the Playland Amusement Park for the 2025 season. And the County Parks Department selects Zamprola Incorporated to carry out that necessary emergency work. What I want to do is turn over to Joan McDonald, Richard Wishney, and then Emily Saltzman in that order. And Joan will tell you what happened after Standard gave us the notice that they were going to terminate in January, and then actually left the park on February 21st, 2025. Joan.
Thank you, County Executive. Beginning on January 21st, when we got the letter from Standard, we started to assess what the needs might be to reopen the park. And the areas fall into 3 different areas as to what we needed to evaluate, a big evaluation. We needed to have conversations with Standard Amusement, even though they had sent us the termination notice, and even though we knew we were going to get into an arbitration process, there were questions that we needed to ask them to see what condition the park was left in. So first of all, we reviewed all of the contracts that Standard had with various vendors within the park. In April of this year, the county entered into a new agreement with the Tiki Bar. We are continuing that contract, but it is a contract between the county and Tiki Bar. That restaurant will be open. They will also be providing food services for the pool and beach area. Other things that we had to assess and review with Standard Amusement, they had sold tickets. They had sold group sales and they had sold tickets, and we needed to ensure that they were going to be the responsible party for refunding those ticket sales. So that is underway. We are reviewing their program and their instruments for point of sale ticketing to see if those issues are in good shape, if those items are manageable and operable. So we are in those conversations with Standard Amusement for those limited items. The next area was pool and beach. As the county executive mentioned, the county invested $125 million in infrastructure in the park, and that included a brand new pool and beach area. and bathhouse. So we have started that process. First and foremost, on Sunday, May 4th, the dog beach closed for dogs so that the County Parks Department can begin the cleanup, which is quite extensive, so that people can use the beach as a beach for the sound. So that's underway. We had to do a structural assessment of the pool, and then that was done by DPW and their contractors, and then we filled the pool to make sure there were no leaks, that there were no issues with the integrity of the pool. That has been done, and the pool is in solid shape. And last is interviewing and hiring lifeguards, so that when we open the beach and the pool, we have the appropriate staffing. So we had already started that process for the rest of our pools in the county system. We just expanded that to Playland. So that has been done, and that is underway as well. The last area, which is what everybody is very interested in, is the amusement park. As the county executive mentioned, the amusement park rides were not kept in good condition. And that was us assessing visually. We determined that was not enough. So in February, we issued an RFP. We retained Von Drieska Leisure from Ohio. They came in from March 10th through March 20th and visually inspected every single ride in the amusement park. It should be noted that they also were at the amusement park last summer. We retained them to come in, and Standard acknowledged that they came in. And on an average day of the 10 days that they were there, up to 16 rides were not operable in the 2024 Playland season. They completed their assessment on the 20th, gave us their report at the end of March, ride by ride, what parts were there, what parts weren't there, what needed to be done from a visual inspection. At that point, we began what is known as non-destructive testing, where you test to see. It's a very detailed forensic testing to make sure that the rides are safe. That is underway right now. As the county executive mentioned, we are using Zamperla to help us. They own many of the rides in the park, so the other rides that we have are individual owners and operators. So we are going through that assessment right now. The work to get the rides in shape requires mechanics, welders, carpenters, and painters. We are utilizing DPW staff, park staff. We have contractors on call, so we can, as we assess the ride, we can start to make them, we can maintain them so that they will be operable. As the county executive said, that will all have to be approved and signed off by the New York State Department of Labor to see if it meets the safety regulations. So that is a very detailed ride-by-ride assessment and then repair. We are doing that right now on a daily basis, around the clock, to make sure these rides can be safely operational. The most important thing, or one of the important things to remember, is that Standard Amusement did not leave inventory. The inventory to repair these rides were not replenished. Many of the rides were not winterized when the park is under county park, when Playland is under parks supervision. As soon as the last day of the season closes, the county staff dismantles and puts the various pieces of the rides away into covered areas so that, they're on Long Island Sound. There's the salt, there is the winter effect. These rides were not winterized. They were left out in the elements, and the supplies and materials to bring them back to a safe operational condition was not met. So we are using all of our resources, all of the mechanics and welders that work in our various departments are on board and helping out. They're out there today. So with that, I'll turn it back to the DCE.
Good morning. On Wednesday, April 30th, I had the opportunity to tour Playland with Parks Commissioner Kathy O'Connor and Deputy Commissioner Peter Tartaglia and Deputy Director of Operations Emily Saltzman. When entering the park, I was impressed with the beautiful work that has been done on the historic colonnades. They have been brought back to their original beauty. The newly constructed pool is beautiful and is a family-centered delight that will be treasured by all who use it. The handicap pool entrance is an added benefit, and the entire pool is surrounded by lounge chairs that you might find at any country club along the Long Island Sound. The beach is pristine and the views are spectacular. The capital investment of $150 million by the county has made a huge improvement in this Westchester County jewel. Unfortunately, when visiting the rides area of the park, it was disheartening to see that the rides were not maintained over time. There are rusted parts, bent metal support arms, failed electrical components, missing gearboxes, and similar decay that are obvious needs to be repaired and replaced before these rides would be approved for access to the public. That is the process that is being undertaken at this time with a full all-hands-on approach by the direction of the county executive.
Good morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about our recruitment of the people to help us run Playland this summer. A summer job at Playland has been a time-honored tradition in this county for years, and many county Parks Department employees had their first interaction with the department in a summer job at Playland. The Parks Department has held one job fair already to recruit for summer jobs in the park and has 3 more planned for park management, ride operator, cashiers, painters, lifeguards, and custodial staff and other positions this season. The next job fairs are May 10th at the County Center, May 17th at Playland, and June 7th at the County Center. Applicants ages 16 and 17 who plan to complete their applications on site must be accompanied by a parent or guardian, and applicants need to bring valid photo ID. For more information, please go to the County Parks Department website. In order to get the word out about these opportunities, we are working closely with the County Youth Bureau, local youth bureaus, and their community partners. We're also doing outreach to organizations in the Bronx to promote these summer job opportunities. Faith-based organizations, local colleges, and the County Workforce Development Board are also working to promote these great Playland summer job opportunities. We look forward to seeing you at the fair this Saturday.
Awesome. First, thank you, Emily, thank you, Joan and Richard, because, again, let's take a step back one more time. Again, all the work that had to be done, there were many people that were trying to suggest, basically inappropriately, that there was nothing going on behind the scenes. Clearly, with Joan McDonald outlined from the Director of Operations perspective and all the things that had to be done with the folks at Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, whether it's Frank Carrieri, who's at the park daily, but also between Kathy O'Connor, the Commissioner, First Deputy Commissioner Peter Tartaglia, and people should realize and remember people like Kathy O'Connor and Peter Tartaglia. Peter started his work in the marketing department at Playland. Kathy O'Connor spent significant time at Playland working under Joe Montalto, who ran the park, and those kind of things that were happening. We've been working, obviously, with the Department of Labor, which has to inspect all the rides, and we're going to continue to echo that. No matter what work that we're doing, and everyone's hands are on deck to make sure things are going to open as quickly as we can. They're certifying the rides. The Department of Labor is the one that certifies the rides to be open, which rides, and each one of those will be certified as required before any public use can happen. And again, Ultimately, this is going to be the state's decision from Department of Labor whether a ride opens or not. Obviously, we're going to have some activity that's coming up. So let's start with one of the things that you're all waiting for. Playland's going to be open on Memorial Day weekend. So we're opening the park on Memorial Day weekend. The rides that'll be open obviously will be subject to whatever rules and regulations that the state comes down to Department of Labor, which rides can be open or not, but that's ultimately the state's decision. Playland's going to be alive with activity on Memorial Day. We're going to have food, concessions, games, entertainment. Obviously, the beach is going to open as all of the county beaches open on Memorial Day weekend. Playland, Croton Point Park, and Glen Island Casino. And we're going to look to have the pool open. While it could be open now, it's usually a little bit cool for that. We're going to open the pools when all the rest of the pools open in June, at the end of June. In an effort to make the park more accessible and welcoming for all, parking at Playland is going to be reduced to what it was when the county ran it at $10. Admission to the park on Memorial Day weekend is going to be free. So let me say that again. The park is going to be open for free on Memorial Day weekend. We all love Playland. It's part of all of us. I got pictures of me and my wife of 43 years hanging out in Playland while we were dating. Everybody wants to see Playland work and be operational. We have to do this, and we will do it safely and responsibly. I want to thank everybody that's been engaged in this. Forgetting just the county employees for just a second, because all of the county employees, there's so much love for Playland. It is just enormous how much love that people have for Playland, for all the people that work in this county. And whether they work in parks, recreation, and conservation, the nationally accredited, award-winning park system that we have, but also everyone in every department, because IT is there, public safety is there, DPWT is there, everyone that wants to make sure Playland moves forward together. Second, we want to thank all our vendors, whether it's the Tiki Bar, vendors past and present. I cannot tell you how many phone calls, emails, outreach that I've personally gotten, all of us have gotten, that says we want to help make this work. And our partners are going to be part of the reason that we're going to be able to have this happen. One of those partners happens to be Zamperla, who has 11 of the rides that are at Playland. Most people should recognize, and I didn't hear this enough when people were talking about the arrangement. The Zamperla company runs Luna Park. Most of us don't call it Luna Park. We call it Coney Island. Coney Island's Dragon Coaster, and there was a great article that was explaining all of the things and the history of the park, and the designer of the Dragon Coaster is one of the designers of the Cyclone. The Cyclone is 1 year older than the Dragon Coaster. So again, there's a lot of history there, but Zamperla clearly runs and does a good job in running Luna Park. That opened back in March. It opened in March for Palm Sunday, I believe is when they opened up, and they were able to move forward. As a matter of fact, at my inauguration, I mentioned that point, that we made sure to understand that. But Zamperla, who does operate Luna Park, has strong Westchester roots. They live in Westchester. Some of you may not know that. They're not just an Italian company. They call Westchester home, and they love Playland too. So we want to make sure for all of our departments, especially those folks in Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, that are working tirelessly day in and day out to maintain the beauty, safety, and magic of our park system. Their dedication and professionalism and passion are at the center of every successful season, and we know that we want to also thank every member of the Westchester community and every fan of Playland from around the world for their intense, trust me, intense passion for Playland Park. We assured you it was going to open, and now you know it's going to open on Memorial Day weekend, and the amusement park for Memorial Day weekend is going to be free. We really thank everyone for their support as we move forward on this. And again, Memorial Day weekend, Playland's opening. We're going to move forward. And again, the rides are going to keep coming as we continue to do this and move forward in this for Westchester County. We thank you all for coming today, and then we're happy to take some questions. Marcus.
So the free admission is for the weekend, but then going forward, what will be that rate?
You know something, we haven't decided what that's going to be just yet, but we are going to absolutely assess that, because part of the concern that we have, Marcus, is depending on how many of the amusement park sections can be open, you know, what's fair to do. When we get to a specific point, when we have a critical mass of the rides open, then we're going to move forward. But again, rest assured, it'll be back towards the days, not like standard amusement days, it'll be more towards the days than we did days. We did $15 days, we did community days. You know, we'll see how that's gonna go. It'll be in that affordable category, because people used to know, you know, Marcus, people know this well from around the county, that they would have a choice between going to the movies and going to Playland, right? You know, they're not going to Six Flags, they're not going to Legoland, they're not taking one of those major trips to those amusement parks. It can't cost $200 to go to the amusement park. But again, in the old days when you'd be able to save $15 a person, you know, something in the afternoon, let's go head up to Playland and be able to walk around Playland. We also know that we are going to continue what we tried to do in the past, which for residents of Westchester County, it's a park. And it's your park, right? You know, we spent $141 million, close to $150 million on the park. That's all of our money, and you should be able to take advantage of that, and that shouldn't cost a dime. So we're going to continue to do that work. If you want to get on rides, then we're going to have a price for that, and we'll go from there. So, thanks. Jade, and then more.
Do you have a rough idea of how many rides will be open Memorial Day weekend?
So we do not have that, because at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the state, right? And what we will do for everyone, obviously, we're going to have a walkthrough of the park that's going to happen probably on the 23rd of which is the Thursday or Friday of that week. We're going to do something. We'll have our legislators there. We'll have everyone that would like to walk around the park before we open over the weekend. We'll try not to do something like brutally on a Friday evening on Memorial Day weekend. I guess my friends in the media would not like me anymore if we did something like that in the evening. So yes, Jay, that's what the plan is right now. Yes, Linda.
You mentioned Zemperla running Luna Park. I don't know how long the county intends to remain in the operating amusement park business. Might that be a conversation to have moving forward about what the options could be, including involving Zemperla, which becomes a question for the next?
Well, you know something. That's a great question, because we actually got that from a union member today, right? The answer to that is I don't see that happening anytime soon, right? I don't see that in the near future. We already had a scenario here in Westchester County. We had the Marriott, right? And that didn't work. And then we had Sustainable Playland, and they pulled out. And now Standard Amusement, 3 years in, that doesn't work. You know what? We're not going to take the time to do that in our administration. Whatever happens, 30 years down the road, we can't tell. But there's no plan for that at all. We're going to work as hard as we can with all of our partners to make sure things are happening to do the work that we have to do. So, thank you. David.
How is the deal with Zemperla structured? Now, there's no dollar amount on it now, right? How is that going to? They're just going to give you a bill for their work, or?
What you may want to do is see how emergency contracts work in general. In general, how emergency contracts work is that the members of a board of acquisition and contract, that would be myself, the chairman of the board, and Larry Soul, get that to all of our legislators, that they make a public notice that there'll be a contract coming, and that contract will have to be adopted by the board of acquisition and contract. So you'll see that shortly.
Okay, that's coming soon.
It has to.
That'll have a dollar amount in it?
Has to.
Yes.
It will have a dollar amount. It will say what those things are. And again, we have a lot of things that are concerns for us on how things are moving forward and how that would get compensated in things as we move forward.
Okay.
Yes, Marcus.
Speaking about moving forward, nostalgia aside, is it financially sustainable for the county to operate an amusement park? Especially, the goal is to make it affordable, and there's limited revenue coming in, and you've already, as a county, sunk hundreds of millions into this and now more to get it back up to where it should have been. Long-term, is this viable?
Well, the facts from my perspective as a person that was in charge of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation when I was privileged to be on the Board of Legislators, that was my first committee, was Parks, Labor, and Transportation in 2007. I know that Playland is a park, and the question was when we have in our 18,000 acres, 55 plus park facilities, which ones make money? Well, parks don't make money. They're all investments. It's a park. So at the end of the day, Playland was the park that cost taxpayers the least amount of money in Westchester County. And I know that because that was a study, obviously it was around with Rob Astorino and was pushing forward on that, but we did that in Andy Spano, when Andy Spano was county executive, and said, why are we not making these investments? These $141 million, $125 million after the McDonald-Nona report, but actual dollars spent so far, $141 plus million into those investments, into the infrastructure. Those are our assets. They belong to us. So we should have been making those all along. All of us may be old enough to remember the Fram auto commercial, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. And that's the kind of scenario that we've seen, at least in the infrastructure side, that if we spent that money all along, we would not be spending $141 million of investment on buildings, on infrastructure, the colonnades, et cetera. And there's no one that has looked back and said that that's not a smart thing to do. But yes, we're going to continue to make those investments. And when we ran the park, the year after the Marriott ran the park, the attendance increased to 1 million, and while Marriott lost $5 million over the time period of time that they did that, once it came back to the county and no longer under the Westchester County Park Commission, that we were able to have an increase in revenue. So we feel strongly that it's our park. We put in, again, $141 million of the people's money into this and invested in that. We're going to make sure that it's going to be a park for everyone to be able to use and access. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. We really appreciate that. I'm County Executive Ken Jenkins, Joe McDonald, Richard Wishney, Emily Saltzman. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate your time. Have a great day, everybody.